right, well, we're back. It's Phil and Dave, EXSIN Live on Wednesday morning, back at our regular time. It's been a crazy 2 weeks. I know a lot of people are on vacation. I hope you're having fun and enjoying yourself. Also, hope you get a chance to watch what we're doing. Today, we're going to talk about building your team. And we're going to talk about a couple things: acquisitions and building your team and what that looks like, and challenges you face. And we're going to talk about just the plain process of hiring people, because people are the biggest challenge in any company.
Yeah, they are. And I mean, it's like anything. I know we're very boring, but it's about processes. It's about understanding who you need, what fits your culture, all those types of things. And also, as the leader and the owner, understanding if there is ever a time when you need to adjust something. You know, sometimes we can get into rut, I guess, for the lack of a better word, and not realize that sometimes you need to change the way you're looking at things.
Yeah. Yeah, and it goes, there's due diligence done on both sides, right? For the employee coming in or the company you're buying, they want to be a part of your organization. And for you, are they a fit, right? Because your culture is your culture. And, we use DISC at EXSIN to help us understand people and where they fit in an organization. It doesn't mean you're stovepiped in a certain area, but it helps us see how you're going to fit with the rest of the team, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing is when you're personally a company, you can have a big dreamer that's building great things, but can't run a business. Is that something you want to pull into your company? And how is it going to work? And what controls are you going to put into place to make sure everybody wins and is successful?
Yeah, I think too, we're currently, we got two acquisitions. We're helping three potential acquisitions, I think, with clients right now, that we're helping them at different stages of that process. And what does that look like? And, what do you have to consider when you're looking at a merger or a true acquisition, or, what does it look like? I mean, all these things matter, but they all tie back into the people.
So if you're looking at hiring a manager and you don't have a business plan, you don't have goals set or a job description for that business manager or that person you're bringing in, you've already put yourself a little bit behind the 8 ball, because they don't have set clear expectations. They don't understand what you want. So if you don't, let's start here. If you don't know what your goals are, don't even bother interviewing anybody, because you're not going to get them to do what you need them to do. It's going to be in your head. They can't read your mind. And it's going to be really rough in the air. Now, if you have those goals set and you know what you want to do in an area of growth for the business or production lines or whatever you're working on, then I would say it's really good for you to bring that person in and define those goals in that first meeting and see what they think. Some people are not willing to do the work to reach the goals you set for them.
Yeah, and I think one thing you got to consider too is, when we're looking at a business either to acquire for an account or we're helping a client that might be looking at acquiring a company or selling their company or whatever the case may be, one of the first things Dave and I do is we talk about the people inside. Who are the players involved in this whole process? Not just through the acquisition itself, but long term. How are they going to fit? What's going to be the fit? Because anytime you start, especially on a merger, it's a unicorn to find two businesses that's culture matches perfectly. I mean, I've never seen it. Now, you'll have businesses that are close, right? But that's something you've really got to consider, because once all those players come in and you've got new faces in the crowd, new faces in the break room, new faces in the Monday morning meetings, it's funny how, what's a good analogy, Dave? I like to say, when you interview people, the day we hire people, we're the smartest people in the world. And then with that employee, we get perpetually dumber every day, right?
That's facts.
And that's because when you're hiring somebody, it's all puppies and chocolates and unicorns and, parades, and everybody's excited and everybody's happy. And then reality hits, and then people start questioning each other. And that's where a healthy culture really matters, and I'll say this too, as I've got one son out of my 4,000 children that has a desire to be in business. And, he doesn't know a lot right now. He's a very smart young man, but he doesn't know a lot right now.
He doesn't have experience.
But he's got the desire and the want to. And if you have the desire and the want to, and somebody that'll work, it will work, right? But you still have, I don't care if it's your kiddo or if it's your best friend since kindergarten, you better make sure they fit. because if they don't fit, it's going to create big problems for everybody down the road.
So let me bring some reality to you. Any new hire is going to go through 4 phases in the organization, and they're going to drive your organization to 4 phases. It's proven fact.
Yeah.
Forming, so they're going to be sweet and good, and they're going to try to fit in and do everything you ask them to do, and they're going to be the greatest employee ever. That's
You're so smart, boss.
Yeah, you're the best. Then they're going to go, you know what, maybe the old man's a little crazy. They're going to test them as that's storming, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be a shit show. Excuse my language, but it is going to be a shit show in a lot of cases. And how you handle that as a manager, how you handle the insanity at that point as a manager, if you have a process in place and expectations, and you're asking the right questions every day, you can minimize the storming part.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about mergers?
What
Can we get into that?
Can we finish the 4 things?
I thought you did 4.
I did 2, forming and storming. We got.
You know I don't do well with math.
We've got norming next. So things, if you've done a good job as a manager, things get norming, and then they'll start really performing and becoming the employee you want them to be, or you'll let them go because they couldn't do that. Okay, now Phil, let's talk about mergers.
Did you notice what I did there? Dave outranks me. He's a retired colonel. I'm just a lowly NCO, so I had to listen to him and.
You didn't have to, but I didn't get to finish what I was saying.
I'm sorry, dude.
I mean,
I just told you I got construction dust built up in my nasal passage. Good God, if this remodel doesn't get done soon, I'm going to lose.
The other thing for you guys out there, just on a funny note, I'm getting to see Phil's sexy legs today. His pants got painted last night, so it's been fun at the remodel.
It's one comedy after the next, but anyway, we've got. But this remodel teaches you a lot about yourself.
Oh, sure does. How much patience do you have?
I got 0. If anybody's wondering,
I lived your pain for one day with the garage door guy. I don't want to do.
I've got the patience of a rattlesnake right now when it comes to this stuff. But
so let's talk about mergers and the additive possibilities of a merger and bringing those people in.
Yeah,
that's what you want to talk about.
Yeah, well, I think we've got a client that. It's really not a merger. But that's the closest thing we could call it.
Yeah,
but it's a rescue is what it is, honestly. But at the end of the day, there's things you got to look at, right? So if let's say it is a true merger, there's so many things you got to consider. I mean, the obvious things like, are the numbers correct, and what are you really merging with, and culture and all that stuff, but you also got to look at the boring stuff. Any lease agreements you currently have. Are you making sure those things are accurate and right, and something you can live with? Is there liabilities out there? What are you doing to protect yourself from any liabilities that come over with you? Do you want to retain the brand of the company? Whose brand are you going to fly going forward? You got to consider all these things, and I think sometimes we get in a rush, especially with small businesses. We think that we're overcomplicating things when we're digging into stuff. And the truth is that's your opportunity to make sure it's, number one, a good decision, but also number 2, you're not creating liability for yourself that you're not aware of.
Well, and you're simplifying things, right? Because if you have the discussion before things happen with the person, right, with the people, and you have come to an agreed solution, a shared solution for the future, it's a whole lot easier when you get to the storming phase to work through it.
Yeah.
Because you can say, we had this agreement, so we're having people are people. Look, I don't mean to be mean or rude, but people are people, and people are going to do what they do, and you can never predict what the outcome's going to be. So you have to set yourself up by success by giving them a path to know what the future looks like.
I get a chuckle when Dave starts talking about people are people, because the inside joke here is that everybody looks at me and thinks I'm the one that's probably maybe a little harder on people.
Yeah.
True?
Yeah, probably.
And I'm really the hug giver. Right?
Yeah, punch him in the mouth and hug him.
Well, I mean, sometimes you dust them off when it's over.
No, Phil, you have an amazing ability to look at somebody and tell them how silly they are and then make them feel like they're the king of the world. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well,
I can't do that.
I think, because Dave will say,
I can't.
Dave will just get in somebody's mess kit, man. I mean, he'll be like all up in their stuff, pushing them. And I'm sitting there watching them going, hey, they're getting ready to break. they're getting ready. Okay, they're going to start crying.
Do I ever raise my voice?
No, you don't.
Mean to anybody?
No.
Just ask questions.
Like a colonel.
My daughter told me the same thing. I've been working on that, Phil.
Like a colonel. It's so funny. It's just like to the point, which is good. But and the reason I bring this up is if you have somebody on your team that fits well with you, meaning that maybe they see things in a different light or they have a different communication style, it's important that you incorporate people within the organizations that can see things through a different lens than you do. Because, I'm a little too much of gut, oh, gee, this feels right. This, we're connecting. This is all good. And I don't ignore the numbers, but I'm more dialed into the personality and the people side of things, right? And that's because I'm a D and an I. I'm a driver I. I'm a D and I. Dave is a D and I, but you got to remember he's a process guy. Flew planes for 24 years, for the greatest Air Force in the world. So, he's very much a process guy. He's very much, okay, this motor blows, this engine blows, we do these things. This wing has structural problems, we do these things. This gear quits working, we do these things. So, and there's not a lot of time for emotion when you're dealing with those kind of problems, right? It's all about, okay, here's the problem, here's the checklist, here's the process, this is our best chance for survival, this is how we're going to do it. And so you got to be conscious of how you communicate. That's why we always are bringing up DISC and just how do we, what's the best way to approach it.
I don't want to miss this point, because if you're the owner of a company, you need to understand who you are and how people receive you.
Yeah.
And you need to surround yourself with people that can soften you if that's the case, or strengthen you if that's the case.
Yeah.
Whatever you need with your team, because a quick way to become irrelevant as a boss is not have a path, not take a stand, not make a decision, and your team thinks you're indecisive.
Correct.
But there's a good way to relay that decision in a bad way, and part of that is knowing who you are and how you relate. That's part of the hiring process. It's part of building a team. It's part of building an organization that will succeed in spite of you, right?
Right. I mean, and we see this with businesses. I mean, we've engaged with clients and we've engaged with people that wanted us to take them as a client. And Dave and I'll have a conversation like anybody does after they meet somebody new, and it goes something like this. They're really successful, but they're successful in spite of themselves.
Yeah.
Because it's not that they're not good people, it's not that they're not smart people, but a lot of times we don't have these things. And while they're successful, they're not near as successful as they could be if they were just following these basic processes. And so, that's what you've got to be mindful of when you're looking at these things, especially when you're looking to create a marriage between two businesses. You got to make sure everything fits. And probably most importantly, Dave, everybody knows the role and where they're going to fit in the team. And that's hard, because if you have two sets of leadership teams or two people that have for years have been in charge of their organization and now you merge, most times you've got to understand your role, and that means one of the leaders usually has to take a back seat, right? They have to take a back seat.
There can only be one boss.
Yeah.
Right. When you can't differentiate, it's confusing to the team. And in a merger, one of the challenges you have bringing that other team on is, okay, who do I listen to? Who's in charge? And the second thing you're going to be really careful of in a leadership situation is you're going to have informal leaders in that organization. And if you don't get them to buy in, if you're the owner of the company pulling them in, you're going to struggle, because your informal leaders are going to be going against you.
Right.
I've seen this happen. You got to win them over, understand who they are and how to talk to them and get them on your team, because they're going to do more at the lower levels to bring that other team in and get them on board to buy into what you're doing with your company.
And if they're still hanging on to this is my show.
This is the way it used to be.
It creates tons of challenges. And so there's got to be that clear expectation, that clear path for everybody to follow. Because if you don't, you're going to have problems down the road. Dave, I just noticed that my boy Michael is actually watching today.
Oh, hey, Michael.
Hi, Michael. How's Jordan?
Are you still that luggage in the air hub?
I told Dave, our son Michael we're very proud of him. I hate to say this publicly because our relationship's based on me telling him how bad he is and everything, which isn't true, but we like to give each other a hard time. But he sent me a text on Monday, I think it was, saying, hey, I think there's a high probability I'm flying out tomorrow. He's been over in Jordan, over in the Middle East for about 6 months and on deployment. And he said, yeah, they've already got my bags. I'm not working anymore. I'm just waiting to catch the plane. And during our text, he goes, I hate the military. My flight just got canceled. So it's not funny, but that is standard when you're trying to get out of
Michael, from 17 deployments, not dealing with this a number of times in my life, it builds character. It makes you a better husband and father.
Son? Does it make him a better son?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. I know it made me a better husband and father because I don't mind waiting anymore. My wife's going to go sit with the car for 2 hours. I'm happy. It's peaceful and quiet. I can read a book. So on the side note of the military and what the great Americans do to defend our nation, thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
Thank you for protecting us, the old retired guys here. We appreciate you and your sacrifices, and I look forward to meeting you soon.
And you still can't take me, Mike, just in case you're wondering.
I'll give you some pointers about where he's hurting the most.
Oh, he knows all the joints. He points those out all the time. How's those knees? How's that hip?
No kidding. You get 50 and a check engine light comes on. For anybody that's under 50 on here today, just fair warning, take care of yourself.
I do got to tell you though, and Mike would say this, I was over 50. We were down in Florida, which is where he lives currently, when he's not deployed somewhere in the world. And we were in the hotel room, and he decided he wanted to mess with old dad. And,
you ain't as good as you once was, but you're good once as you ever was.
I'm good. No, I'm good once as I ever was.
Let's circle back into people here.
This is about people.
Yeah, great people. I would love to hear Michael's input on what he thought of his leadership.
Yeah. He's probably scared to death to type anything, but I love it. We'll probably hear about that when he separates.
Don't need to see Phil though.
Oh,
poke at that, man.
Don't need to. Oh, nice. Man. Phil, man.
So one of the things that we want to kind of wrap around this is here's how to succeed with people. Define clear expectations. Make sure they have a list of what's expected to do day in and day out.
Yeah.
Trust but verify, right? Give them a chance to succeed. People don't lock their doors to keep criminals out. People lock their doors to keep good people from making bad choices. Business owners do not give manager processes to ensure bad people do their job. Business owners give processes to people so they can excel at their job and do more. And I don't want you to forget that, because if you give people a path to success and you set the bar way up here, I've seen it 1,000 times. They will run as fast as they can to get that bar, and they will blow you out of the water what they do. Yeah. I mean, our airmen in the Air Force are the greatest airmen in the world, and I don't know how many times we did that for them, and I watched them just knock the socks off whatever task we gave them, whatever goal we set. It works in business too. Set those rules, define the expectations, let them go do things, let them fall down, pick them up, back up, dust them off, show them where they made a mistake, and continually push them to be better.
Well, and I think too, we were on a Zoom call yesterday with a new business associate of ours in one of our businesses, and it was such an interesting conversation because it was an honest conversation, and they were communicating, hey, this is how I receive things. This is for me to perform with excellence, these are the things I need.
She knew herself.
Right? And that's so helpful because I believe this. Most business owners, most leaders in organizations, they don't want to not give people what they want, right? I mean that would be counterintuitive. I mean, you want to make sure that your team has the tools they need to execute in their job with excellence, but very few have the courage or the confidence to speak up and say it. So this is what I need. And I think that's a big deal, but it's about culture. If you build a culture where people feel comfortable doing that, then they will do that. If you build a culture where people are sitting around going, God, is he going to think I'm stupid or needy or, I'm not coachable if I tell them this, then you're not going to get good input from your employees. And that's true whether you're doing an acquisition or if they're just out there doing the grind every day to build a business.
And if somebody comes to you and has that conversation with you and you shoot them down or you put a wall up, that's the last time they're ever going to come to you. Ever.
Yeah.
You've got to be open to listening. You don't have to agree. You don't have to, coddle them, but you do have to listen. Yeah. If you do listen and take that information in and help them through whatever they're dealing with, you're going to gain that trust. And trust is a huge thing for leaders to be successful. If you don't have trust, you can't really run your organization.
Right.
And that's a two-way street.
Yeah, I mean, without trust, there's nothing. Yeah, Darren's right. Darren has posted tools and empowerment allow it to succeed, and that's true. I mean, it's but if you don't think about this, if you're dealing with an adult, let's say that this person's been around in the business world for 5-10 years, they've experienced some success, they've learned a lot of stuff that you only learn by doing. And they've been brought up in a culture that empowers them, that says it's okay to make a mistake doing something where you're trying to forward the cause, where you're trying to accomplish something. Mistakes are going to happen. And this is one of the toughest things for business owners to understand, is mistakes are going to happen. It's what does your culture say about those mistakes? Do they criticize and humiliate and beat somebody up when they make a mistake, or do they say, hey, let's talk about that, let's walk through this and see what happened, and then you can learn from it. And as a leader, you're going to become a better leader by doing that exercise and walking through that with them. Now, if you have somebody that makes a mistake constantly, the same mistake over and over again, that's a whole different animal we're talking about, right? I mean, the key there is you learn from the mistake and you become better.
I'm going to use a football analogy here too, because I think it's really applicable to going full speed, right? If you're playing football and you're on the field and you're going full speed all the time and you miss a play or you do something wrong, very little chance you're going to get injured if you're going full speed, right? It's when you let up and you pull up and you allow the player to wince that they're going to get hurt. The team's they're going to bust a big run. I have never seen a football team with 11 players go full speed not be successful, even when they make mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's what you've got to encourage your team to do on both sides of the ball at your company. They need to be going full speed, pushing to the goal every day, knowing that they have an impact, knowing that their job is important, right? The lineman job on the football team is just as important as the running back and the quarterback. If they don't do their job, they don't get the touchdown. They don't get the big yards. They don't get the top 100 running back in the country. Same thing for your company. Every person in your organization, their role is important. If they don't know what that is and you fail to tell them how important they are in the company, you're going to have a tough time being successful in building an empowered organization.
I mean, the big uglies aren't moving people up front. I don't care how good of a running back you are, you're not going to go anywhere.
No.
I mean, maybe it's 1 against 11 at that point. So everybody serves an important role. And I think you've got to always stay focused on making sure people understand that, to Dave's point, and growing that culture. Culture's the king of everything.
It is, and it's up to you as the owner to set that tone.
Yep.
And know your organization, know the people in it, and know the good fits and the bad fits, and how do you bring the bad fits in or get rid of them. One tainted person in your organization can destroy the whole thing.
Yeah.
I've seen it time and time again, so you can't have that happen. So this is about people. If you're going to go hire people, make good decisions, understand your organization, the personalities in your organization, and hire to that fit, right? And then mentor and mold them to build the future of your company.
Yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line.
Simple. So with that, Michael, have a safe trip home.
Get home.
For everybody else out there listening and watching, say thank you for your time today. Hopefully we give you some tips to help you grow your business. We're here for you. If you need us, reach out to us on Facebook, call us, smoke signals, whatever it is. We're here to help small businesses grow and get better. So with that, Dave and Phil, we are out of here.